Hello, and welcome to our Bitesize worship, which this morning focuses on Daniel. We say together our opening prayer. Creator God, we thank you for all the riches you give us. We thank you for the blessings of this world and all that is in it. Help us to focus our lives anew on your service as we reflect together on the life of your servant Daniel. We'll now have our reading from the Bible, which today comes from the book of Daniel.
The reading is taken from Daniel chapter 6, verses 16 to 23. Then the king gave the command, and Daniel was brought and thrown into the den of lions. The king said to Daniel, "May your God, whom you faithfully serve, deliver you." A stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet and with the signet of his lords, so that nothing might be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting. No food was brought to him, and sleep fled from him. Then, at break of day, the king got up and hurried to the den of lions. When he came near the den where Daniel was, he cried out anxiously to Daniel, "O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you faithfully serve, been able to deliver you from the lions?" Daniel then said to the king, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me, because I was found blameless before him and also before you. O king, I have done no wrong." Then the king was exceedingly glad and commanded that Daniel be taken up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no kind of harm was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
The book of Daniel portrays a very interesting commentary on the balance between human and divine power, where that power lies and what its limits are. Daniel finds himself an exile and a prisoner in a foreign land, taken from his home by the regional superpower which Babylonia was at the time. Forced to change his name to Belteshazzar and urged to follow the customs of the new country, Daniel faced a dilemma many displaced and imprisoned people have faced ever since. How much of his own identity and faith could he preserve in the face of an oppressor who wished to remove all memory of his people, so that ruling their territories would be easier and less costly? Being faithful to his beliefs, Daniel faces intimidation, anger, and even threat of death, as we so graphically heard in the reading today. But I don't think that it was entirely related to his faithfulness. Other things were at play, which is why I think this book is such a commentary on the competing powers in the world. Initially, Daniel is cajoled into eating the wrong things by a jailer who's more afraid of what might happen to him if those in his care look sickly than being motivated by any religious motives. But Daniel and his friends start to become noticed because of their ability to understand visions and dreams and their wisdom and knowledge. And they became enmeshed in the court of the king and rose to positions of trust and favour. Others displaced and overlooked became jealous and hostile to Daniel and his friends. Our reading tells of Daniel being thrown into the lion's den because he had prayed when it was forbidden. But this situation had only come about because others, jealous of his station and the plans to further increase his powers, set a trap for him. They had fooled the unwary king into making a decree which would force Daniel to choose between his faith and his life, confident that he would choose the former and would be removed from the path of their advancement. Therefore, although Daniel ended up in the den of lions because he stuck to his faith, the motives behind this were all tied up in human power games. I think the book tells us very clearly that our faith and the workings of the world can't be separated, and that our faithfulness will always be challenged by the needs, the demands, and the pressures of the human kingdom we live in. I think the other interesting thing about the story in today's reading is it is not one of God rescuing Daniel. God doesn't pull Daniel out of the difficult situation he's in. Rather, he gives him the strength and the tools to cope with the situation and make something better from it. I think Daniel shows us that our faith will be tested in this world. We will face difficult times because we live in an imperfect world. But that God will be there for us, not to pluck us out and live our lives for us, but to help us cope with the dangers and issues we face in that life. Amen. We will now sing the hymn, Father, Hear the Prayer. Our closing prayer. God of our journey, help us to cope with the stresses and strains of this life. Help us to see in Daniel a model for faithfulness in adversity and trust in God through our difficult times. Be with us in all we do, sustaining us with your love and presence in our hearts. Amen.